I'm Kendra. Jyoti joined the Corps of Fire at the start of 2016. The Corps was precious to her, and she gave back to us in many ways, organizing 2 Corps of Fire group trips to the New Jersey Performing Arts Center to see Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater, and 1 to Pollock Theater at Monmouth University to see Sweet Honey in the Rock. When new members came after her, she went out of her way to help them integrate. And as she was learning the repertoire, she renewed veteran members' enthusiasm with her serious quest to understand the origins and the meaning behind the choreography. She stimulated us with unique interpretations and inspired us with heartfelt confessions about the ways in which the dances moved her. How way over yonder was her morning meditation, or I dreamed of rain contributed to healing her relationships. I didn't know her before she joined us, and I still vividly remember the day I met her, the sparkle of recognition in her eyes, a kind of instant chemistry. I went home and I said to my husband, "There's this new woman in the Corps, and I think we could be friends." I didn't know anything about her, and when I found out she was a psychiatrist, my heart sank. I had an extensive psychiatric history with multiple hospitalizations for major depression and a severe anxiety disorder. As much as I had worked to find freedom and meaning, to create and give back within the boundaries of the self-care routines I had developed, reframed my disabled status as different and sensitive, I still carried shame about it. Little did I know, Jyoti had a secret of her own. When we finally decided to meet outside of rehearsal, how we laughed and laughed about the assumptions each had made about the other. She confessed to me, "When I saw you first perform with the Corps, I thought to myself, a woman that beautiful and talented could not possibly have a problem in her life. She would never be friends with me." We had met in Red Bank for lunch, having discovered that we each carried chairs and blankets in our cars, and no restaurants we could find provided a setting with the requisite comfort. We decided to sit outside in Marine Park. The shadows grew long, and we shifted our chairs across the green to stay in the light of the setting sun, as our stories bubbled up and were released in mutual identification, a shared understanding, like no other friend could, of both the horror and the humor of the psych ward, the breakdowns and the struggle back to functioning. She told me about neuroleptic malignant syndrome, a rare reaction to antipsychotic medication that nearly killed her. And I shared my 10 days of post-ECT delirium, an equally unusual reaction to shock treatments that my family worried was permanent brain damage. As our friendship developed after that, we both found comfort and safety in having a friend who intimately understood the mysterious mixture of both extraordinary capacity and extraordinary incapacity. A friend who knew firsthand the dogged masquerade it sometimes took to get through social events and holidays. A friend for whom no words were necessary to convey the profound emotional and physical sensitivity that could make even the smallest stressors overwhelming. We protected and supported each other through the inevitable moments of comparison to the norm, and delved deep into what provided meaning, comfort, routine, and structure. And we laughed. Jyoti described her manic episodes to me, what it felt like for her powerful mind to skid past the tipping point into delusion. How she remembered it all, but it wasn't her. It didn't feel like her. How painful and arduous the break from reality was, but how indescribably beautiful life was when she was back. And this, she wanted me to tell you all today, that no matter how painful reality could be, she didn't ever want it to be diminished by anything, because her gratitude for being here was so great. Jyoti's struggle against the unreal gave her a penetrating clarity about the world and about herself, a deeply wise and willing embrace of even the most raw and difficult moments of life. And this she took with her when she was diagnosed with leukemia. Eyes and heart wide open, she faced the fire. The courage and resolute determination with which she had approached bipolar, she turned on her cancer and the possibility of her death. Only a few months before, my aunt had died of cancer, and not too long before meeting Jyoti, my mother as well. I had been involved in their caregiving and present for their deaths. Jyoti called me late one night from the hospital and asked if I would be willing to describe in detail every circumstance of these deaths. "Oh," she said, analyzing them, "I think my terror is that it is going to happen without my knowing. I know it sounds crazy, but I want to be awake for my death." I described to her how although my dying mother appeared unresponsive, when I leaned down to gaze straight into her eyes as her breathing stopped, her breaths suddenly started again. She knew we were there with her. Jyoti took even more comfort in the story of my aunt's death, that there were gentle, non-invasive ways of reducing pain, and how their use only enhanced my Aunt Mandel's remarkable acceptance, and how she was so awake and alert on the evening before her death that I had driven the 2 hours home thinking I would go back in a few days. But my uncle couldn't fully rouse her the next morning, and later that afternoon, with all of us around her, she passed. So when Neelu told me after the Hindu service the circumstances surrounding Jyoti's death on Thanksgiving Day, Jyoti's alertness, her plans made to attend Thanksgiving, the family arriving to find her unresponsive, and then her peaceful death surrounded by those who knew and loved her best, I thought, how like Jyoti. She used her powerful mind to ask questions, gather information, delineate what she preferred, utterly self-possessed. She bravely carved her own clear path forward in the hardest rock there is. The last talk we had before her leukemia diagnosis, one night after rehearsal in June, we had actually discussed the fear of death from cancer, how vulnerable we all were at any time. She said, "Yeah, it could happen to me tomorrow, but I think it would be okay. I've had a good life." I remember feeling amazed by this, given what she had shared with me about the course of her life so far, and what we had both shared with each other about the frustration of not always being able to fully utilize our training and gifts. She'd also said it in April, after she'd been given a clean bill of health after a series of medical tests to rule out endometrial and ovarian cancer. At night in June, I remember saying to her, "What if there really isn't anything ultimately wrong with you? What if the special capacity of your mind to open to other realities is really a gift?" And I enumerated how some of her starkly original insights had been useful to me. was. She smiled appreciatively, then laughed and said, "Oh, I think I have an illness." I wish we had gotten to finish that conversation. I thought our friendship, our special dialogue about meaning, self, and life was just getting started. But I do know that regardless of diagnosis, psychiatric or otherwise, there was something ravishingly unbroken and unbreakable about Jyoti. Something that was more real, more true, more honest. With the clarity and openness born of her unique nervous system and polished by life, Jyoti was willing to fully own her space as a grain of cosmic dust through the most excruciating and unusual of human challenges, up to and including the shock of her untimely death. A fragment of infinity, her speck glinted like gold. Brave astronaut of the human experience, lucid perceiver of the undreamt vista, an inner spelunker mining the blackest tunnel for the richest ore, with clear round eyes casting the farthest light, her smooth brown skin a glistening numinous interface, the flashing blade of her sharp mind carving startling wisdom, gently offered, warm and smooth as soup. Fierce knower of dark and light together, my friend Jyoti, bright beacon of the extraordinary.